The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Woo! Okay. I'm going to tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are we in? Are we recording?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody first and foremost. Thank you for showing up yet again. I know, Jim, you just saw this movie yesterday. So
yes.
It's pretty fresh. I saw it on
But you saw it the day before, so it's not any more fresh for me than it is for you, right?
Oh, yeah. My memory's not what it used to be, though. So you might have to.
Well, I saw it last Tuesday.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna work this out in real time, so bear with me on this one.
Maybe you can use the Dial of Destiny, Christina, to go back and really do a quick recap and then come right back to us. So you could be the expert this week.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work.
No.
No.
We'll wait for it.
Well, wait. It's time travel. It's instantaneous. I'll be back before I even leave. Right? Isn't that how that all works?
Remember how we talked about like time paradoxes a couple weeks ago?
Wait, there's no paradoxes in this whatsoever. Everything lines up perfectly. If you don't know what we're talking about, we are talking about the new Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I don't even like that title. When I heard it, I was like, that can't be. That's right up there with the Phantom Menace.
At least it has alliteration, and I am a fan of alliteration, so I have no problem with that title.
I just think that nobody could say Antikythera, so...
Yeah, that I would have a problem with. But along with Indiana Jones, we are talking...
Buckaroo Banzai. BB, for sure. We don't really have any news, per se, so you want to just get right into this? Let's get into the... We've been waiting a while for this.
Yeah.
A while. Decades we've been waiting for this.
Well, when was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
2008.
2008.
Yes.
The fourth movie in the Indiana Jones trilogy.
And by all accounts, at the time, it seemed to be the last. And everybody had a sour taste in their mouth, not only with the movie, but are they going out like this? You know, I'd rather just watch Last Crusade again and pretend that that's the last one.
Yes, correct. He literally is riding off into the sunset with his father and his best friend. I don't know. I don't know. Do we owe George Lucas an apology now after watching what Disney's done with this? Are we going to show our hands this early?
I don't know.
Suddenly, I don't think Crystal Skull is... I've gone back and watched it a couple times, and you kind of get rid of some of those scenes with Shia LaBeouf swinging around with the monkeys. And it's not that bad of a movie. There's actually a lot of funny beats to it. And Marion being front and center there is entertaining. And
I was really close to watching it again because it's now on Disney Plus.
Yes.
The week before I went to go see this. I'm like, no, I'll just watch Temple of Doom again. So that's what I did.
The dark and gritty one.
So yeah. I have not seen Crystal Skull since it came out, I think, on video. Like, I didn't go see it in the theater. I saw it when it came out on video. And when we went to the Alamo, as part of the pre-show, they did a recap of all the previous movies.
Okay.
And I was like, I have completely forgotten like huge portions of this movie. Like, I have no memory.
Oh, yeah, because I did do a little bit of diligence where I looked on Wikipedia at the Crystal Skull recap just to catch myself up. I'm like, Shia LaBeouf was his son? I don't remember that.
I don't remember that.
That I remembered. And obviously I remembered Marion being in it and being happy to see Karen Allen.
Yes.
But so. Like, I forgot Cate Blanchett was in it. I forgot.
Yeah, she was the Nazi, right?
Russian. She's like a Russian. Or something.
Oh, she wasn't. She wasn't.
There were no
Nazis in that one.
No, they're Russians.
She's this kind of like indistinguishably weird accent.
Well, he makes fun of it too.
And then
in the movie.
I just want to bring this up because we saw the preview for Craven the Hunter.
Oh, no.
Can someone tell me what accent Russell Crowe is doing in this movie?
Russell Crowe's in
Keep this
that?
guy away from the accents aisle in the grocery store. Put your wallet back in your pocket. You don't have to buy any more accents from this point on. You've got enough. You've got enough.
I think he's just renting them. I don't think he's buying them.
And it's not clear what it's supposed to be. Like, is it Greek? Is it Russian? Who knows? I don't even know why Craven the Hunter exists except for Aaron Taylor Johnson to look hot. Well, I mean, that's what my son and I call it whenever we see the preview. We're like, it's the Aaron Taylor Johnson looks hot movie.
This
like,
guy isn't everything.
Yeah, that's a ringing endorsement for the plot and the substance of this
what
film.
plot?
I have not seen this yet.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't seen the trailer?
No, I
I've seen
haven't.
it like 3 times.
No, I've seen the trailer, and the tagline at the end is, "Hey, it's not Morbius."
There you go. Can we just say up front, we are going to spoil this. If you have not seen this movie,
if you've not figured that out with us yet, we're going to talk all about it, backwards and forwards.
Yeah, and let's start right at the beginning because, boy, it's really weird seeing a Disney logo in front of that Paramount logo.
Yeah, and I was waiting again for some kind of morph because they did have the Paramount logo. They could have done it.
Yeah, this is the first time they haven't done it. You're right. Where it morphs into the mountain or anything else. They did not do it here, which is weird. Spielberg and Lucas, executive producers, so their fingers are on this.
I mean, look, this is how I feel about it. There are a lot of good, competent people who contributed their energy to an extremely dumb movie that has no reason to exist.
Wow. Just lay it out there.
There's no reason for this movie. Like, seriously, there's nothing here except for, like, they should call it Indiana Jones and the Pointless Cash Grab.
Ooh,
It's the only reason for it to exist is to play on some nostalgia, to try to get people to come to the movies.
That's what all these movies are we've been covering lately.
Yeah.
Any of the reboot of the Star Wars. When you pay $4 billion for, Lucasfilm's archives, you got to do something.
And it's not that I think anybody's like doing anything especially wrong. I just think like the script is dumb. The movie is way too long. Like, you don't connect with anybody. Anybody who might be interesting gets killed off, like Mason, the CIA agent. I was like, what's the point of that plot thread? Like, she was in this movie just to get shot.
You mean Foxy Brown?
I wasn't even sure who they were. Because at some point somebody asks, "Are you CIA?" and they don't answer.
No.
So I didn't know if she was until a little bit later when she's on the phone and it's suggested that they're working for the government. But I wasn't completely sure.
There are a lot of plot threads that are picked up and never carried through. But going back to Jim's original point, which you said, when you go back to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and you're like, oh, this is him and Marion get married. He's now got a son that he never knew. And you literally see LaBeouf pick up his hat at the very end and Harrison Ford takes it back and he goes, "Not yet, kid," or "You're not ready for that." So implying that they're going to somehow pass the torch on to Mutt as the new protagonist.
I was in panic state once I realized this. I'm like, the name LaBeouf over an Indiana Jones logo on a poster is not making it for me. And
Correct.
that's on the complete surface level, first of all.
Well, I think
Crystal
you're not
Skull
alone.
only existed so that they could do some wish fulfillment and finish off like Marion and Andy's relationship. That's my opinion on why Crystal Skull even came to be.
Well. It does that very well. So you cut to this movie and he's at the end of his career. You're seeing a Luke Skywalker, he's washed up, he's done. This guy's 80 years old. He's going through the motions as a teacher. He's retiring.
He's not even at Marshall College anymore.
No, I had to crunch a number because at first I'm like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever timeline wise. So I actually had to go and write down all the dates starting with the River Phoenix opening sequence where he was a kid, which takes place in 1912. So he's retiring from this college, Hunter University, and he's been there 10 years. So that pushes it back. This movie takes place in 1969. So push it back. That's 59. Crystal Skull takes place in 57. So 2 years after that. So He's got a 2-year window, I guess, after he was still at Marshall University.
But there's a glaring, even more so than that, a glaring error in this timeline for me that made me stand up and point to the screen. Indy is asleep in his chair.
Yes, I'm so glad you called this out. Yeah.
And he is falling asleep to a broadcast of HR Puffin Stuff, which didn't premiere until a month after this moon parade took place.
Yeah, so, September.
I did appreciate that they did go through the trouble of getting the rights and showing a little bit of HR.
But what's the point?
Stuff,
they have to know that someone like you is going to point that out, because they do. It doesn't take more than a Google search to find out when the Apollo 11 ticker tape parade took place in New York City.
But I was very happy that they worked a David Bowie song into an Indiana Jones movie. Mm-hmm. And that did make chronological sense, because that song came out originally to coincide. Well, it just coincidentally coincided with the moon launch. So that was on point. So bravo.
But before we get there, we get this opening flashback sequence.
Which really
takes
long.
Place in I'm guessing because it was the end of World War II, the Nazis were on the run. So they didn't give you a specific date, but I'm guessing maybe like 1945. And this has been scrutinized, this whole opening sequence, because this is where they did the de-aging, this face swap technology that ILM has pioneered, going all the way back to Jurassic Park. It's been around for 30 years, but now it's being employed to the sense where you've got this character, he's 30 years younger, even though it's only, in timeline wise, it's only like 24 years between what we're seeing in 69 and 45.
And there's varying results, because when you first see him, like, this looks really good. And then a few scenes you can tell
it's not quite there yet, because he still has that plasticky sheen to him. There's a scene where he's getting the flashlight shown into his eyes, and for the most part, it's flawless. It looks great, but it's not quite there yet, because we all know now that what they did. So you're
looking for it, and you're also getting old man Harrison Ford's voice, which is not young Indy's.
Well, that's what
voice.
I said. Even when we found this out, I'm like, he's still 80 years old, so he's still going to run like an old man. I don't know. Yeah. We went Friday night, 7:00 showing. Now this has been open for a week, because it opened June 30th. I went with my son and my friends and a couple of his friends. The theater was jam packed. It was completely sold out. And when they're doing a train fight sequence, and Indy's getting dragged, he's being lifted into the air, and his back is being dragged across the underside of the tunnel. And he comes out the other side, and there's not a skate. His jacket's not torn up. His jacket's not scuffed. My son was like, "This is bullcrap." And I'm like, okay, it's an Indiana Jones movie. You have to just kind of go with it a little bit. But yeah, come on.
No, but the bigger thing, he gets like beheaded.
He's boom. I mean, the whole audience just went, whoa. And then, he shows up 30 years later, and he's completely intact.
Because I thought to myself, that can't be the end of him, because he's the bad guy in this movie. Somehow the dial of destiny brings him back. No, he just survived it.
Yeah. No, without even a scar.
Yeah.
Something. At least every James Bond villain, when something happens to him, he shows back up years later, and he's got crystals embedded in his head or something. Missing an eye. Something. Nothing. So that's right off I did appreciate, because once again, you open up, and they're after the Holy Lance, the Spear of Destiny,
Lance of Longinus.
Yes, which is funny, because Dark Horse actually did an entire comic series based on this. But again, it's just another sacred Christian relic that somehow they're going to steal and give to Hitler as some kind of a trophy prize, but it goes nowhere.
Well, that's because it's a fake. It's a fake. So because the movie's not about that, Mads is actually more interested in the Dial of Destiny, and that becomes the MacGuffin of the movie, hence the title. Yeah, so we have this blast of nostalgia, the opening, to kind of tie it back to the old style Indy as much as they could. And then fast forward to HR Puffin Stuff in 1969.
Where the good stuff. But the thing is that we already had a train chase sequence in The Last Crusade, and a much better one at that, with River Phoenix as a young Indiana Jones on the run in the circus train. much more heartfelt, much more, oh,
Gosh,
look,
when
he
I
goes
think
into a
about
train.
River
know.
Phoenix,
No,
I
I
mean, and
agree.
he's so perfect.
Yes.
He mimics Harrison Ford, like down to like even the way he runs, the
No,
way
yeah.
his legs move, like not
Yeah.
just his facial expressions or his tone of voice, like he is an exact mimic of Harrison Ford in that opening
No, it was
sequence.
fantastic. And
Mhm.
again, it's an origin story. You see where he gets the scar on his chin and
Mhm.
his fear of snakes and everything else, and his relationship with his father right up front, which makes The Last Crusade to me is one of my favorites.
I think Last Crusade is better than Raiders. I love Last Crusade.
I can't go that far, but I do enjoy Last Crusade, and I probably would watch it more than I watch Raiders.
And I
But
say this as a person who loves Marion. Like,
Yeah.
I really like Last Crusade. I think the dynamic between him
Agreed.
and Sean Connery is amazing.
Absolutely, yeah.
See,
back to
I'm not a huge fan of Last Crusade. I hate
No,
to rain
huh?
on your parade, but that's the
think
one
you
I've
need-
watched the least.
I think you need to go back and rewatch it, especially
Well,
now that,
I
that you
never-
have a son. I think you need to.
Yeah, well, that's what I didn't like about it. Like the doddering comedic effect father, even though
Oh, he's
Temple of
cheap.
Doom has
Oh.
plenty of comedic effect characters, but I still love that one. I don't know. I just
I'm not going to fault you for any of them,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. But I will say this. So Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, Helena, she's getting a lot of crap online. People either love this character or hate this character. And I enjoyed the hell out of her because she is so she's in it for her own means. And if you go back and watch these Raiders movies, Indy is like so self-righteous in some of these, like it belongs in a museum. He doesn't care if someone is taking something because it's going to save their dead brother or what. It doesn't matter. He's got this police mentality.
Not in the second movie. He's selling stuff on the black market.
Yeah.
At the beginning of Temple of Doom.
But this is
those were his days of carefree youth, right? He hasn't really gotten a conscience yet in that movie.
So he was doing exactly what Helena was doing.
But he saves the village, and then suddenly I think there's a sea change in his mentality when he brings the rocks back.
Yeah, the San Carlos Stones.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she's kind of known for playing unlikable characters, because I don't know if you guys ever watched Fleabag.
Well, I think that's where a lot of people are, because they don't like that character, are somehow transferring that anger onto this.
Yeah. I will always hold her in high regard for what she did with No Time to Die. I know that's not shared with all three of us, but she was a writer on the last James Bond movie, and I love that.
Well, she was also the voice of the robot in Solo. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That somehow Lando was having sex with.
I mean, I think she's a great performer, but I think the reason why like that unlikable character works on Fleabag is like you really get to know that character in a way that you don't really get to know.
People are unlikable.
Well, I mean, I think like the reason why it works on Fleabag is because it's a TV show, and like you have a chance to like really get to know this character, and she talks directly to the camera in Fleabag. So like there's a sense that like she's sort of sharing things with you. Like you don't have that here. So like if you don't like these qualities about her, then she's just like a surface level unlikable character in this film. And I don't think she's really that well. I don't think any character is really that well written in this.
Well, I enjoyed her character, and obviously this kid that was with her, Teddy, it's very much a Indiana Jones short round relationship.
I was expecting him to reference Short Round, because when she tells him, I caught him on the street because he was stealing from me when he was 10 years old. That's exactly what Short Round did to Indy.
We've been together ever since. Not a mention at all. Yeah.
But I would like to retrofit Crystal Skull and have her as his daughter instead of as his son. So if only. Right.
So we find out she's Toby Jones's daughter. It's Indiana Jones's goddaughter. And we meet Toby. So again, Toby Jones is in this opening sequence with Harrison Ford. Indy's on the train. This poor guy is just along for the to carry his bags. So he's kind of like the Marcus character. He's a bumbling, he gets thrown in the middle, and now Indy's got to save him as well as, get off the train. Did they blow up the bridge to Hogwarts, by the way? Yeah, and then he loses his mind. And this is where I thought it was interesting, because at one point when Indy's having this discussion with her, and he finds out that she's after this dial of destiny, and her dad was just like Sean Connery's characters was obsessed with the Holy Grail. Her dad is obsessed with this dial of destiny, and has consumed his whole life. And Indy is like, why would you devote your life to something that drove your father insane? And she's like, well, wouldn't you? And that right there shows me, because he didn't. He thought his dad was nuts to go after the Grail. So there's a lot of these, and then you bring in and this is very interesting that they went out of their way to kill Shia LaBeouf's character.
Yeah,
which is just like, it was all for naught. That's like saving Newt in Aliens just to have her die off screen in Aliens 3.
I was like, good.
I mean, I think that there's so many ways you could have done it.
But it doesn't make any sense, because the kid was such a rebel. He literally was James Dean on a motorcycle with a leather jacket. He was anti-establishment.
But that's what he said, that he did it to piss me off.
No, I don't. There's a lot of things you can do to piss off your dad. Not joining the military.
Are you saying you wanted Mutt in this movie? Are you saying you wanted Mutt in this movie?
No,
you could write off, like,
utilize that character. Marion shows up Marion is nothing but a means to an end. She shows up at the very end.
There's so many ways. If you didn't want Shia LaBeouf to be in the movie, you could have just recast the role.
Right.
That's not a big deal. That happens all the time.
The director actually speaks to this in some interview that I read. First of all, it was too many characters to be running around. We could have just mentioned them and kept them off screen, but then the audience is always thinking of this other character that you've told me about that is somewhere out in the world.
So we just kill him. It doesn't make any sense. The character would not have joined the military during the Vietnam War.
And I don't understand this too many characters thing. What about all of these characters that step into this movie and then step off screen, like Antonio Banderas?
I think it was just a nice way of not having Mutt in this movie. And that's the reason I don't want to watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Well, I think it's also, a way for them to not have Marion on screen.
Yeah, which is a mistake, honestly.
Yes, correct. And I get it. You're trying to. This guy's in the sunset of his life. He has busted his ass his entire life. You were looking at his classroom, and you're like, this would be the most boring class in the world. Like, I would have fallen asleep at this.
It's funny that you say that, because I just mentioned that I watched Temple of Doom like less than a week before we went to go see this movie. And I watched it with my son, and he loved Temple of Doom, which I was very happy with. And then after the movie was over, after this movie, he said, it wasn't as good as Temple of Doom. It was like it was a different guy.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm like, well, that's what happens when you age. But he had a point, it's like Indy in this movie is grumpy old Harrison Ford, not Indy.
Yeah, I felt that in Crystal Skull. Like, after he gets nuked in the fridge and then he's being interrogated, it's just grumpy Harrison Ford in a t-shirt. This, I thought he kind of toned it down a little bit. And I think when he did The Force Awakens and J.J. Abrams brought him back, he says, I can't have you playing grumpy Harrison Ford. You need to find this character again. And so this is Harrison Ford's favorite character. He felt that he needed to. Don't forget, this was also delayed quite a few years. This should have gotten off the ground a few times. So maybe he wouldn't have been quite as old, but still, it doesn't matter. Even if he was 20 years younger, Christina, you brought up, it's way too long. There are chase sequences. There are chase sequences with these stupid motor scooters that go on forever. The horse scene in New York City is ridiculous. He is running this horse through the subway. Now he jumps the turnstile, and the guy chasing him in a motorcycle somehow ends up on the platform. How did he get by the turnstile? In a motorcycle. And now you're in the tracks, and I get every one of these movies has to up their antes. The chase sequences with the mine shaft in Temple of Doom is a lot of fun. It's ridiculous. They probably would have died 1,000 times, but this horse is like running through subway trains. And he's framed for murder that never gets resolved at the end of this movie.
There's so many things not resolved, or like plot threads that kind of start, but then like peter out. Like I said, like the whole subplot with the CIA.
Talking about the CIA,
Mhm.
So were the thugs CIA or Nazis? You know, pick a side. Pick
Who
one.
knows?
It's one in the
I'm
same.
like, who knows?
And I
I
was
mean-
convinced that one guy, that one thug, was CGI because he was so
Oh,
huge.
big. Yeah.
That guy's real. He's
Yeah.
completely real. He's 7'2",
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah.
You know, and such a waste of Boyd Holbrook as just like a yeehaw, like gun-toting
Cowboy,
Nazi.
yeah.
And he's such a good actor. And like, I was so excited to see him. I'm like, so his whole point in this movie is just to point the gun at people and like be told, don't shoot that guy.
Right. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I already shot him. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
because I'm crazy.
Yeah. I don't want to shit on this. I really didn't want to crap on this, but we all walked out of the theater and was just like, the last 20 minutes is the most interesting part of this entire movie. And I have to say, why wasn't that the movie?
I'm not going to crap on it. I thought it was a fun afternoon at the movies. The nostalgia worked on me, even though it's Grumpy Harrison Ford up there. I like seeing him on the screen.
Well, I like seeing him as well. I just like again, some of these sequences are just rehashes of things that we've seen Indiana Jones do already. That scooter chase it just goes on way too long. Those things,
Everything's too
can't
long.
go.
Like the plot seems unnecessarily convoluted.
Well,
And-
I will say every one of these Indiana Jones movies is contrived.
But it's contrived,
convoluted
okay,
and
but like
convenience.
Raiders of the
It's-
Lost Ark, think about what
Yeah,
it
it's a
achieves in an
very-
hour and 45 minutes.
It is a very
Yeah, they
tight,
could have
terse,
that whole
succinct.
thing with diving down. They could have lost that whole sequence, had that somewhere, more attainable to get, or stolen it from another character.
All right,
And
yeah,
that would have
this-
taken 20 minutes out of
because
it.
this is silly. I love the idea of the eels are snakes. The real history of this dial was discovered in 1901 off the coast of Greece. You're going to tell me in the 70 years since, nobody thought to look in the second half of the ship that was 20 feet farther down for the rest of it? They get away. Poor Antonio Banderas gets killed.
He only has
No,
like
he's-
3 lines in this
Yeah.
movie. It's like, why is this man in
Right,
this movie?
Correct.
At this point,
Yeah.
we're like, oh, it's Puss in Boots. Look.
Yeah. I just hear the Flonase beetle, the bee. Hello. They leave Voller stranded with his the thugs on the boat.
Does he actually try to tell people that he's from Alabama? At one point, he's like, I am Professor
Professor
Schmidt
Schmidt.
from Alabama University.
okay, yeah, we
Oh,
believe
I
it.
knew that accent from somewhere. It's
Yeah,
Alabama.
Yeah.
Right.
But all these Nazis are just waiting around in this hangar for them to show up with that plane.
And he never realized what Indy did at the beginning because, continental drift. Continental drift. He's right.
Son of a bitch. Yeah.
Still, it's stupid. Yeah, it's stupid. But the other movies are, there's just
you know-
stupid
But
parts
the
in
whole
those
thing
movies
with
too.
the
But the other-
dial that he purposely takes from Basil, Toby Jones's character, and he promises him to destroy it. And what does he do? No, he puts it in a museum. What good is it doing just hiding in the drawer?
He doesn't even put it in a museum.
This
He
guy is
hides
he's just a kleptomaniac.
it.
He's just got
He's like
OCD.
me. I can't throw anything out in my
No,
room.
I know. My wife is like, that is so you.
So the weird thing is, right? So he used to be at Marshall College.
Yep.
Now he's at Hunter College. He's only been there for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Why would this artifact end up in their archives
He took
and
it
not
with him.
be in Marshall College's
Marshall's.
archives, or like just with him, like in his house, right? It just doesn't make any sense.
Now when I see as a transition in these movies, you see from on a map from point A to point B, the red line moving
Yes,
to show
yeah.
you where they're going.
Yeah.
I always think I'm lining up for Soren. I'm like, I'm about to get on Soren, and there's David Putty from Seinfeld who's instructing me to have a good flight.
I would have welcomed him in this movie.
Traveling by map.
Yes. Yes.
That's-
The oldest trope.
Mhm.
Hey, listen. And we get around, we go lots of places, but
The other, I don't remember Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I don't remember Kingdom of the Crystal
Hmm.
Skull, but the first 3 for sure. There's something for you to hang on to. Like, you're invested in the characters, there was more suspense, something like I just didn't feel here. Maybe that was it. Like, I just didn't feel any suspense when things
no,
were
because
happening.
because he has no motivation. He's lost his son, he's lost his wife, he just lost his job, he retired, he's got no purpose. And so there's no spark in this guy.
You know what's missing as well, even though John Williams does the score.
He does.
It didn't have, he only hits on that old theme occasionally. A lot of what brings you along in those older movies are his score.
Yes.
I thought that this one was lacking. It wasn't memorable until he was hitting those old notes again.
Yeah.
But I did, again, bringing back Temple of Doom, when there's one point where Wombat is towards the end when they're climbing. She's like, can you make it? Can you make it? Can I make it? I drank the blood of Kali.
Yeah.
I was attacked by voodoo.
We get a nice little callback. I've been shot 9 times, once by your father. My dad shot you? Yeah, we saw it in the opening sequence. Thanks. So
how great would it have been if they did actually have Short Round come into this? Actually in the movie. That would have been
well, that whole sequence.
I would have been in tears. I would have been in tears.
It would have been great. I would have been very welcome, because this kid was not utilized. He learns how to fly just so we have a second plane convenient to get out of it.
He's not even, again, his character's not even as developed as Short Round's.
No, correct. No.
In Temple of Doom. So like this thing, there's no characters are developed. Yeah. There's just like a lot of meandering plot. There doesn't feel like any suspense. Both Helena and Indy are smart enough to like figure out any puzzles. So like, again, there's just no suspense here. It's like, there's no like, oh my gosh, will they solve it? Like there's
it's like, oh, we found this. Now we gotta go to this place. And the cave sequence. So Freddy, what the hell's the kid's name?
Teddy.
Teddy gets captured by the big giant guy.
Yep.
And they handcuff him and they go over the bridge, the little Goonies rope bridge. It breaks. They fall into the water. And then, this is great where the kid like actually takes the handcuffs off and basically leaves this guy to drown underwater. But then 20 minutes later, when they're dragging Indy out, the rope bridge is completely intact again.
But no, they only show like the first 4 feet of it.
Okay.
And they just have you put together in your imagination how they get across the broken
They had
part.
to jump. That's like Indy being lashed to the outside of the submarine.
Yeah.
In Raiders.
I was expecting that 7-foot guy to come back. Like he was just going to break the handcuff and appear again at the end.
No.
Because Indy doesn't actually fight him, just sparingly elsewhere in the movie.
But yes, at one point, my son turns to me and he goes, Are we really doing this? Are they really going to time travel? Like, apparently.
Well, they met aliens in the last movie. So how are they going to top that?
So I will say, to George Lucas's, just to put in his mindset, every one of these movies is based on the time period in which they take place. So the original Raiders was an homage to the old Republican serial cliffhangers that he used to watch as a kid. And then you get into, I don't know, Temple of Doom was a little down and dirty, but when you get to the aliens and Crystal Skull, that all takes place at the height of the atomic age with all the, monsters and stuff. And he wanted to bring in aliens because that was what he was watching as a kid with these, it came from outer space kind of a thing. There was rumors for quite a while that this is what they were going to do, that it was going to involve time travel. And I really didn't think they were going to do it. And then when they did it, they did it. When they did it. And I'm like, this just should have been the whole movie. Like, just start this, and now you're Army of Darkness. You're trapped in the past.
Have him on the island for the entire movie.
Figure out how to get back, because you talk about these paradoxes, and the one thing is they make their way. They find our Archimedes' tomb, and he's wearing a watch. Well,
apparently the butterfly effect has no bearing in this movie whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we open up a portal. The Voller, they got Indy captured. He's shot. He's bleeding out. What's her name? Helena is Wombat. Snuck onto the plane, a la Woody in Toy Story. And you got this poor kid, Freddy, flying this plane. And they open a wormhole. And he thinks he's going back to what? This is the biggest time travel trope of all times. I'm going to go back and kill Hitler.
Because Hitler didn't do a good enough job.
I'm going to be the new Fuhrer.
I saw all of his mistakes and I can correct them. This is your plan?
That's what he says.
This is what you spent.
So he does want to go back. So answer me this. I wasn't really sure of this, and I don't know if it's actually said in the movie where
that there are Nazis on the moon.
The Dial of Destiny doesn't create the time hole. It just tells you where it is.
Tells you where it is. So
it's just there. So without the Dial of Destiny, that would be there. Does it close? Does it stay open all the time?
It's a good
Well,
question. It's
there's
a good question.
like this
It's a very
whole thing where
convenient.
they're like, we have to go
We have
now
to get
because
now.
it's gonna go, because they make it sound like it's gonna
Right.
close up again.
Right.
That they have to leave. They're like, Indy, come on, get on the plane because, you know, the time portal, you know, the wormhole is gonna close. That's what they make it sound like.
Right.
If it was
Yeah.
just open, then people would be flying
Just coming
through
I
through.
know.
Right. Right.
space all the time.
Or
I-
they
I'd be
could
open
have
up like-
tied it in with the Bermuda Triangle. Like, oh yeah, it's
Yes,
over Bermuda.
correct. Yeah.
So when the hole opens, when they're in 1969, is it over Sicily that this thing opens and they come
Yeah,
out
basically,
in the
I
same
believe, yes, I
place?
believe. Yeah, he thinks for some reason he's going to end up over Germany. That he's
So
gonna be able
regardless,
to-
he's coming out over Sicily, right? That was
It's
where he
just-
wanted to come out, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess yes.
Because when they come out, he's like, duh, there's Sicily. I'm right.
Yes. Well, you're just
Yeah.
off the coast of something. But we realize he's
So it's just
he
by
overshot it like
coincidence
2,000
that
years.
it's the only coincidence that this time hole is actually over Sicily where he wants to come out. That's his whole
Right.
plan.
Yeah.
So he could have just went there without the dial of destiny to begin with. You just fly around and there it is.
So
It's
you're
right over
saying
Sicily.
we didn't need the dial, we didn't need the second half. I
Right.
will, yeah, for this thing sitting underwater for 60, 70 years, no rust on it was. Have you
Yeah.
ever seen the original Antikythera mechanism? It is just a giant block because it's just been rusted and you know, overgrown with barnacles and crap. And yeah, the two pieces fit together perfectly and the mechanism works. And yeah, I don't know.
Is the ear of Dionysius? That's what they call that cave that they go into, right? Is that a
Yeah.
tourist like destination? So anybody could access the Archimedes tomb?
Apparently,
If
I
they
don't know
wanted
that-
to?
I don't know
If
that
they
really
could climb the
exists.
wall and then solve the puzzle and go through the the floor. and-
They can't now because the Goody Bridge is gone. Sorry. Yeah, that's just been hiding back there the whole time.
If you were in a National Treasure movie, they do the same thing. It would have to be some kind of national monument that's
Sure.
hiding some cave. Yeah. So
Well, that's
All
true,
right.
though.
I'll buy it.
You'll buy it. Yeah. I had a hard time understanding some of Phoebe Waller Bridge's dialogue for some reason. I don't know if it's her dialect or I'm just getting old. I missed the subtitles on this one.
Mumbles? Is
Yeah,
that
I
what-
guess. But here's the thing: like, there's almost no jokes in this. Like any other Indiana Jones movie doesn't take itself too seriously, and I thought there was nothing funny about it. Like I said, if he got stuck in the past for the entire movie, I might have been a little more like, all right, we're doing something different here. But it literally takes place in the last 10 minutes. It just seems out of whack compared to the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I have this idea that they wanted this to be a kind of elegy for Indiana Jones, like Logan is. But then they didn't want to fully commit to that. So they kind of made it half.
Yeah. It's
Elegy and
well, we want to kill him. No, you
adventure.
can't. It's like Lucas going, you can't kill him. I mean,
So, you know, I think like if they had fully committed one way or the other, then this might have been better, but they did not.
but even her logic is flawed because she's like, you can't stay. So they crash. So the Nazi plane crashes. Everyone dies. And I will say Voller dies a very uneventful death. He doesn't get a final standoff against the Indy or anything like that.
Just
He
like
dies in
every
the crash.
other character in
Right.
the movie. they just
Archimedes
sort of,
comes
like-
out. He sees the dial. He sees the watch. And then she's like, you can't stay here. No, I've studied this my whole life. And I need to just go back to the beginning of the movie where he's actually talking about this to his students. And he brings up the idea that they were using shields to harness the sun's light to make lasers. And I'm like, that's how they're going to take down this plane. No, that doesn't happen. They're using giant spears. But even if he went back, which he does, it still negates the fact that you got a crashed World War II Nazi plane and dead Nazis laying all over the place in Syracuse 2,000 years ago.
And yeah, Wombat tells them, you know, you can't stay here. You'll screw everything up. And like, you
No,
already
already
have.
screwed up. But the idea of the watch and that they find the watch in the tomb indicates that it was, you know, it's that time cyclical thing, which is if we didn't go back, he wouldn't have the watch. If we didn't have the watch, we wouldn't have gone back.
Because I was thinking, is he going to take the dial now? And that's how he finishes the dial is they deliver it to him from the future. But no, they took the dial.
No,
as
they
well.
took the dial back, and he was like, "All right, let me just take a couple photos here, and I'll pull this together." I was looking for Bill and Ted in this one with So Crates, but that would have been fun. I don't know.
You see, I agree with everything you're both saying, but I still
but you
like
still
it.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think, again, like I said, because I'm working this out in real time here, just like Crystal Skull, you come out of it and you're like, well, it wasn't like the originals and this was ridiculous and they brought in aliens and it's bull crap. I think over time, I may learn to appreciate this more so as the final indie chapter. We didn't bring up Salah, which is nice to see him, but again, it's a glorified cameo.
Yeah, it was just a reason to have somebody else
from point A to point B.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. The director's saying, like, there's, we didn't want to have too many people in the movie. You already have 8,000 people in this movie.
Because it's like, it seems like at the pre-production meeting, okay, who's still alive? And they checked off boxes to who's going to be in the movie.
Brody, gone.
Also, they probably scratched out Shia LaBeouf, who's at the bottom. Like, scratch him out with extreme prejudice.
I mean, I was thinking about this morning. I remember when studios used to release just a couple of these movies every year, right? Like, seriously.
Back in the good old days.
Yeah. Like they would really, in the summer, every studio maybe would release like one big summer release, and that would be like, your summer tentpole, your summer popcorn movie, right? And it used to be a big deal. Even if the movie was kind of dumb, you still enjoyed yourself because you weren't accustomed to like this nonstop spectacle. And now every movie is like this.
Correct.
So it's hard for me to say, oh, well, it's just big, dumb fun, because it used to be like, if this was the, one of like maybe 3 movies that I would see in a year that would be like this, I could get on board with that attitude. But now I'm like, yeah, this just like another, like there's one of these every week. I felt exhausted when I came out of this. It's been 5 days and I don't remember, I don't remember large chunks of this movie,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Why did they make this? I just don't understand why they made this movie.
I think on paper, I think it looks great. James Mangold, you just brought up Logan before.
Logan's great.
Fantastic
Yes.
conclusion to that character, because it is so out of left field compared to what we've seen that character go through. You got a Charles Xavier who is losing his mind, literally.
Logan is really like a really
and that's not the only good movie that this guy has made. He's got a resume.
Yes. Yeah. So you're like, all right, he's got a great pedigree, and it's like, let's see what you can do with this.
I think there's something about stepping into someone else's franchise, and I know that I felt this like on the last Scream movie, right, where I just really felt like the Radio Silence guys were really turning away from the tone of the series, which had been, 4 movies by Wes Craven and then a movie they made, which was clearly a tribute to Wes Craven. And then I was like, wait a second, I don't know if I like where you're going. It's this thing where you're stepping into someone else's franchise, right? This is Spielberg's franchise.
Yeah.
And Mangold is a good director, but is he Spielberg? Like, does he have that Spielberg energy? Does he have that Spielberg sense of fun? I mean, you're talking about how there's no jokes here. Spielberg is actually pretty big on visual jokes, right? Yeah. In the films. If you're not the kind of director that thinks about that stuff, like, actually, who would have been probably a better fit would have been Gore Verbinski, who directed Pirates of the Caribbean, because it's the same sensibility, right? It's sort of like this, like, sort of visual jokes and there's this sort of sense of fun, the way the camera moves. I don't think Mangold has that sensibility.
But that wouldn't have changed the plot. I think
it wouldn't have changed the plot, but like it might have made it more fun to get there. It might have made these long sequences where you're like, these action sequences are endless. Like, if there's more like sort of
eye candy
fun, like you might have been able to like engage with it more.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around Cate Blanchett being a Russian and not a Nazi from the last movie. Now, this might be a Mandela effect thing, but did she have a riding crop? Because I am picturing her with a riding crop.
I don't remember.
She had a sword. Yeah.
I remember she had a bob, right?
Yeah. So for some reason, I saw her with the armband and a riding crop, the whole 9 yards.
No, she.
You're picturing Elsa, She-Wolf of the SS.
When are we going to cover that movie?
So I think audiences kind of feel the same way as Christina, maybe some fatigue over these nostalgia trips that are being foisted upon us, because this movie is not done well at the box office, not like an Indiana Jones movie should.
Lost to Insidious this last weekend. Yeah.
So this is already being touted as one of the most expensive movies ever made at $300 million.
How much?
$300 million. So hands down, the most expensive indie movie ever made.
Not including marketing?
Including marketing, I think.
Including marketing.
With that 300, I think I'm rounding it up. As of this weekend, and it's going to end up with more once its run is done, because we're only 2 weeks into it now. It's like at 172. But
that's worldwide, right?
That's worldwide, because it's been dropping, though, by huge amounts. I'm not an expert, but I'm thinking that by the end of its run, it'll probably be somewhere around 225, maybe.
Well, I expected to go into my theater and have it empty based on what I was reading. And like I said, it was a packed house. So maybe people are just holding off. Maybe people are just like, you know what, I'm going to give it a week. The character is very beloved. People want to see one more adventure. You got John Williams out of retirement for one last. He just played yesterday at the Hollywood Bowl. He's still out there going. Like I said, I feel bad kind of crapping on it, because I really was looking forward to this. I do like this character a lot. There's large parts that are just boring. I was bored, which sucks for an Indiana Jones movie to be bored. The last 15 minutes was the most exciting part of this whole movie for me.
All right. So what kind of buckets would we give to the Dial of Destiny? I'm probably going to give it the highest of all of us. So I'll start it on a high. Okay. I'll give it 3.5, because I did enjoy. I thought it was a fun.
I'm giving it a solid 3.
2.5. Yeah. I wouldn't have gone to see this if you guys didn't want to see it.
Really? Not at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't have bothered.
For you not to even remember.
If I want to remember Indiana Jones, I'll go back and watch an Indiana Jones movie that I like.
Well, this is the world we live in now, though, right? Which is, we can't just have one movie. We gotta, bring these guys out of retirement. We gotta drive them into the ground. We can't just have 3 Rambos. We gotta have 5. Got to see him at the end of his life cycle.
Yeah. Speaking of that, one of the trailers I saw was for Expendables 4. I'm like, I thought they were on 10 by now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also saw that
expendable,
trailer.
By the way. I did not see that.
Did you guys see the trailer for the new Taika Waititi movie?
No. Although I did see the one for the new Gareth Edwards movie, which looks good.
Yeah, the creator, right?
Oh, yes.
That looks cool. Yeah. No, the new Taika Waititi movie. I forget what it's called now offhand, but the trailer was hilarious. You guys have to go look it up. It looks so good. Mm-hmm.
Just to tie this up in a bow, there's a lot of rumors, and of course, every time Disney releases something, there's a battle cry to fire Kathleen Kennedy. So it's all her fault. She's getting a lot of heat. All right, well, that's it. Indy, it was nice. Thank you.
Yeah, we're leaving the tomb of Archimedes now and going to the concession stand.
We are going to concession stand. So originally I was going to do Pez, and that was just way too cumbersome. That's going to be an entire episode if you want to go Pez. But I did want to lean into the hidden treasure feature of our first movie. So it's not necessarily a theater treat. You probably already know what I'm going to talk about. But it did not debut in a ballpark. Are you ready for this, Christina? It was created, this treat, time-honored treat, was created specifically for the Chicago World's Fair.
Of course.
Of course. For Chicago. So, 1893, German immigrant by the name of Frederick Fritz William Ruckheim, along with his brother Louis, came up with a new molasses-flavored, caramel-coated popcorn and peanut snack for the Chicago World Fair, called Candied Popcorn and Peanuts. Great name. Great. Nailed it.
He was a very literal man.
Yes, correct. Well, listen, he was
a German immigrant. Did he end up in Alabama?
I don't know. He did work on the moon landing after this, so maybe. It wasn't until 3 years later, in 1896, that the name Cracker Jack was officially registered And thus was born the familiarly sticky and sweet candy we know today. And I will tell you, the recipe has not changed. So, 1896. If anybody doesn't know, the word Cracker Jack is actually a slang expression referring to something pleasing or excellent back in the day. Not so much more anymore. You can't say Cracker Jack now without anybody just thinking about the product.
Oh, so that was actually a phrase.
It was a
back
phrase. It was an actual phrase. Why? That's Cracker Jacks. That's a good name. I think I'm going to call this candied popcorn and peanuts as Cracker Jacks.
then. Did it have its secret surprise from the get-go?
No, hold on. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Oh.
Back off on the dial of destiny there, my friend. We're going to get there. So, in 1899, a gentleman by the name of Henry Gottlieb Eckstein invented the Eckstein triple proof bag. And this was a game changer because obviously now your candy would last much longer. He joined forces with the Ruckheim brothers, and in 1902, they officially became Ruckheim brothers and Eckstein. It wasn't until 1908 when they were immortalized in the famous song "Take Me Out to the Ballpark." This was
Take me out
written
to
by
the ball game.
Ballpark. Take me out to the ball game.
When was the last time you went to a ball game?
It's been a very long time.
We sing
Take
it.
me out to the ballpark. Is that like alternative history?
Yeah, that's actually and everyone has hot dogs in a box with peanuts. All right, take me out to the ball game. Yeah, I told you. So Jack Norworth's song, and obviously this shot Cracker Jacks into the stratosphere, and they became super popular.
They name check them in that song?
Yeah, buy
Yeah.
me some peanuts and crackers.
Oh, I thought you meant that they name checked them by name, the
No,
inventors.
I don't think you can rhyme
Like, that would be
Eckstein.
unwieldy
I
if
don't
that
think
were the
you
case.
can, you can rhyme Ruckheim and Eckstein.
Talk about
I
alternate
mean, some
history.
Ruckheim and Eckstein stacks. I don't know. I need big new slacks. But it was 20 years later. It wasn't until 1912, Jim, to answer your question, before they started introducing little prizes inside the Cracker Jack boxes. So candy and toys, I think they knew exactly what they were doing there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were already a pretty big hit, but then you start putting prizes inside. And yes, I think early on they were just thrown inside the popcorn. Now, you know, you had to put them in plastic bags and stuff years later. But it wasn't until I found it was like either 1916 or 1918 before they introduced Sailor Jack and his dog Bingo as the official mascot on the outside of the box, the little sailor kid.
Right.
And then supposedly they were inspired by Ruckheim's grandson and dog. So they are still used to this day, the little sailor and the dog. In 1964, Borden bought the company, now known officially as the Cracker Jack Company. And then in 97, Frito-Lay acquired the rights. And they still make them today, but they discontinued the prizes in 1916. You can no longer get a prize in your Cracker Jack box.
Wait.
They offer up
1916?
2016.
Okay.
Oh,
You said
I was
1916. I was
gonna
like,
say.
Well, you're going
right.
to have to edit this one. I apologize.
Your longitude and latitude are
All
way
right,
off
yeah.
on this dial of destiny here.
Wait a minute. This is not...
It's continental drift, I tell you
Yeah,
that.
continental drift is all over me here. So, no, what they do now is they offer up like a little cardboard. It's a square with a QR code that you can download a baseball-themed game to, I guess.
That's like everything now. Like everything now is like digital, which infuriates me because I don't want to spend every second of the day on my phone.
What?
You know, my husband and I go to the theater now and they're like, the program is digital. I'm like, well, I'll never
No.
look at that.
Well, yeah. We'll talk about that in the what else did we do this week. So anyways, just to wrap this up, at the height of popularity, they were buying anywhere from 200,000 to 5 million prizes. This was like the 1950s. In the 80s, upwards of 15 million. So there was a lot of little prizes out there. I remember like little like tattoos,
Yeah, that's what I remember
stickers,
too.
and maybe
Yep.
a plastic ring. But 1914 and 1950, they were actually giving out baseball cards, and some of these are worth a pretty penny. 2019, a complete set of 1915 Cracker Jack baseball cards. It was 176 in the set. Now they were graded. Went up on the market $750,000.
Wow.
3 cards alone are worth 100.
Wait a second. So this was before they started packaging these prizes in plastic. So how could you have a baseball card that wasn't completely ruined by the time you get it out of there?
That's just it. You probably, I mean, who knows what the grade was on these, but, you know, I can't imagine that many of them survived.
Probably these
like,
ones that were graded were not ever put in a Cracker Jack box.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, I know Topps is very controlling of that stuff now, but back then, who knows? But yeah, the Shoeless Joe Jackson, Ty Cobb, and Christy Mathewson, those 3 cards alone are valued at over $100,000.
Ty Cobb baseball card. Can you imagine?
Yeah. But think about, like, you know, before Topps and the trading card company and stickers and gum and all that other stuff, you know, you get your trading cards in a pack of cigarettes. You get, you know, the Honus Wagner is a very famous trading card that came out in a pack of tobacco.
Yep, smoke them up, kids.
Yeah.
Smoke them up.
I don't know if you remember this, but when Planet Hollywood opened in Times Square years ago, probably mid-'80s, Charlie Sheen had donated some of his private collection, and one of those was an Honus Wagner card, and somebody stole it. It was encased in lucite with screws. I think it had to have been an inside job. So anyways, the history of Cracker Jack in a nutshell there.
Cracker Jack is one of those brands that I've never seen an advertisement for Cracker Jack because they don't need to. It pays for itself.
They used to advertise on the back of comic books. I do remember that.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But I can't tell you if I've ever seen a TV ad for Cracker Jacks.
No. But as Christina said, if you go to a baseball game at all, that's like, it's almost like going to the movies and not getting popcorn.
Yeah, this pays for itself. They don't need to advertise it.
Yeah. I actually think it was created by dentists just so they could fix your teeth after the fact.
It's not that sticky compared to other caramel corn. I'll say that. I think it's
true, right?
I think it's not quite as sticky as like your average bag of caramel corn. The coating is pretty light, and even the popcorn itself has like a slightly different texture than other popcorn.
Yeah, it gets stickier as you eat it because your fingers from the saliva on your fingers.
Well, I think that's the charm of the box. You could just shuffle that right into your gullet
and let it run down your face and down into your lap. Yes.
Oh, so you sat next to me in the theater before.
When my son was young, we took him to a Cubs game. There were always 2 things he wanted, and he wanted the peanuts and the Cracker Jack. The peanuts would keep him busy for like 3 innings because he'd be shelling them.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, you can't eat just one of those. They better be salted in the shell, otherwise I want nothing to do with it. My unsalted ones go to my squirrels.
So that song definitely worked on my kid.
There you go. Yeah, they indoctrinate you. Part of the cult. There you go, Cracker Jacks.
All right. So maybe we should petition that our concession stand carry this stuff now.
You know, it's funny because concession stands now, you know, they're trying so hard to draw people in, you know, so now I feel like everything is on a concession stand menu. Pizza's on a concession stand menu, pizza. Even at Regal, right?
I think Regal's still on a limited menu, but yeah, nachos. They have
nachos. They have, we talked about hot dogs. They have all kinds of candy. They have my
Chicken
Regal
nuggets.
has a full bar. Yeah. We start doing the history of cocktails.
Almost 99.9% of the time, my food is gone before the movie even starts.
Yes, that's why you get the free refill on the bucket.
And then, of course, because now I live in the city and we have all these super fancy theaters, like Alamo has like a full restaurant.
Sure, yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't need to hear the din of somebody cutting their steak while I'm watching
I mean,
dinner theater.
Or open mouth chewing of a piece of steak, yeah.
You gonna eat that?
But let me just mention this maybe for the last time because I know how much we love our Regal ad at the beginning with all the movie quotes.
Can they make a new one?
I know, but I finally worked out what one of these guys was saying because he was so unintelligible to me. The guy carrying the popcorn, and I always thought he was saying Mersher Mush, and I didn't know what the hell he was saying. And so I actually had to go look it up online. And what he's saying is, I miss your musk. From Anchorman, apparently, which, you know, I've maybe seen once. But the guy was like Mr. Mumbles. I'm Mr. Musk. Like, if I was the director, I'm like, okay, let's do that again, but enunciate, okay?
He could. He had popcorn in his mouth.
Okay, so let's leave the concession stand and let's talk about Buckaroo Banzai.
Let's go.
My husband should be here for this segment.
I'm sure he was sitting right next to you, right? Eating his Cracker Jacks.
He loves this movie. I personally find it unbearable.
Oh no! Oh, did you roll your eyes when you were like, "Hey, guess what? We're gonna watch."
So you are not going to represent for him in this case today.
He loves this movie, and I can't really figure out. He must have seen it on, video or something when he was young, because it came out in 84. He would have been 11. So like if it came out on video, a year or two later,
yeah.
he would have been like, I think, the perfect age to enjoy this extremely weird movie.
You got to be a 12-year-old to appreciate.
Well, I saw this in the theater, and this was probably the first and only time I have seen it. And
really? Wow.
Yeah, I just didn't get it at this point. So, okay, it came out in August of 1984, August 15th. So this was already a summer of blockbusters. We already talked Temple of Doom. So that's the summer that Temple of Doom came out. Gremlins was also out.
Yeah.
So I was at the movies probably every weekend during this summer. And so this Buckaroo Banzai movie comes out with a Drew Struzan poster. And I'm like, this is, right up my alley. This is going to be the next summer blockbuster. When this thing started to unspool, I'm like, what the hell is going on? I remember, and I was 13 and I had so much trouble following the plot that I never bothered to watch it again. So this came out too early. If I saw this a little bit later, I would have been much more into it. But as a kid, I always had that stigma against it, and it kind of it refreshed my memory watching it now. I'm like, wow, I know why I didn't like it when I was a kid, but I had more appreciation for it this viewing than I did then.
This is one of those movies that I read the Marvel comic long before I ever saw the movie. It was just one of those, But you're right. The concept is just bonkers. There's no introduction. You're just thrown into this world with no explanation of anything.
Well, you are given that Star Wars crawl at the beginning to explain who the character is.
But if you're a kid, right? What the hell's a neurosurgeon even mean? What the hell's a Hong Kong Cavalier? Like none of it makes any sense. It's gibberish that now we kind of like, all right, they were really, it's a big swing.
It's of its time because MTV was all over the place then. So they shoehorned this rock and roll band plot into this. I
love the outfits here in the 80s. This is quintessential 80s. Although 98% of us were not wearing that stuff. But
it is kind of like a novel idea to think that this rock and roll band are all superheroes as well.
No, it's
but there's so much more going on. And John Lithgow, I read some quote from him that when the movie came out and he would try to explain it to people, he said it would literally take me an hour to explain the entire movie to someone.
I just wanted to explain that Italian accent because that.
Yeah, really. Want to talk about like John Lithgow got his accent from the same shop where Russell Crowe gets his.
Yeah, no, like trading cards, they trade accents on various projects.
I read that his tailor was an Italian tailor, and he would have him recite the dialogue into a tape recorder, and then he would practice copying this guy. But he looks like Christopher Walken. He looks like Christopher. Well, he's don't forget he's also some alien from the 8th dimension who just happens to have.
Well, he's not to begin with.
He's not would begin with. All right, I take it back.
But this is where Russell Crowe got his Zeus accent. He just watched Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah. It's it is a sight to behold. Let's just put it that way.
So Buckaroo Banzai himself, we get the crawl that he is the product of an American mother and a Japanese father. I guess hence the name. And you did get a scene that was cut that showed his parent or his father being killed. And Jamie Lee Curtis played his mom.
See, this is what I was saying off air, which was I was very disappointed because my library does have the special edition DVD that has all of this cut stuff on it, including the Jamie Lee Curtis cut scene. There's a bunch of other stuff maybe we can talk about on the back end. But there was a crap load. There's a whole backstory because they had plans for a sequel with this character, Hanoi Zahn, and that was cut. So any mention of this character is cut out of it altogether, even though at the end of the movie, you do get, the title for the next movie that never came.
He's a neurosurgeon, a martial artist, a physicist, and a rock and roller. Hong Kong Cavaliers is his band. And so he's doing surgery at the beginning of the movie, and he's late to test out his jet car that's going to break the sound barrier to make its way into the eighth dimension. So he successly completes the surgery, and Jeff Goldblum, I guess, is his fellow surgeon.
I thought Jeff Goldblum had to call him in because he didn't know how to fix he was doing like brain surgery.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like they're doing surgery together at the beginning. And then once Banzai is done with that, he goes via helicopter to the desert where he gets in the jet car, and then he drives through a mountain. And that's what kind of sets this whole plot in motion. He's going through the eighth dimension. And this is where he sees these aliens that we find out later have been banished to this dimension. And it's kind of like a sub 2001-ish kind of scene where he's going where everything's in negative. So he sees these bodies in fetal positions, like as he's flying by, and then he comes out the other end of the mountain. And a little bit later, John Lithgow's character of Lizardo, he's in the mental hospital, and he hears about this, and he's outraged because it was his idea. But it turns out that Lizardo is one of these aliens. You don't know this when you're first introduced to him. You get a flashback, puts electrodes on his tongue, and I thought was a great visual. But then he flashes back to the 30s, where him and the same scientist that's working with Buckaroo are doing the same type of experiment, but he gets stuck like midway between dimensions. And these aliens are trying to pull him in, and like coworkers are trying to pull him out by the legs. They do pull him out. Somehow the head bad guy alien possesses him, or
you're already overthinking it.
So I'm thinking, what happened to the body of the bad guy alien from that dimension? He's in Lizard. I don't know. Worfen, his name was the alien.
Lord John Worfen.
John Worfen.
Yeah.
For all means and purposes, is Lizardo for most of this movie.
Hamming
it up. Yeah. Buckaroo kind of wakes up these aliens that are in this dimension. There's aliens already on Earth that are trying to bring them in to take over the Earth. There's a good faction of aliens that had banished these bad aliens from planet 10, I think it's called.
Keep going.
that have come to warn Buckaroo, but they're going to destroy us if they don't help us beat because they know that the other aliens are going to try to wipe them out. So they threaten to wipe us out if we don't help them. So that's basically it in a nutshell, right?
Good aliens, bad aliens.
Yeah, that's really what it breaks down to.
Black aliens, yes.
You got bad aliens, good aliens, and Buckaroo has to help.
And sometimes you see the aliens as aliens, and sometimes you see the aliens as human.
It's like a they live situation because Buckaroo gets zapped. So now he's awake and he can see the aliens for what they are, but nobody else can. So sometimes you're seeing things from his perspective, and sometimes you're not.
And they're after this oscillation overthruster,
which
is right from Back to the Future, right?
Yes,
comes a year later.
At one point, we actually get the tunnel from Back to the Future. Actually, I think it's the tunnel into Toontown as well.
From Roger Rabbit, it is
correct. Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
That's an understatement.
Are they playing at the Stone Pony in Jersey?
It's a very Jersey-based movie. Everything takes place in Jersey.
Yeah, we even have a character named New Jersey.
Yeah.
Because he's from New Jersey. They didn't stretch too far. But we're introduced to Penny Pretty, who's played by Ellen Barkin, who's lost everything and going to kill herself. And I'm like, so what are you doing at a rock show? How did you pay to get in? She has no money. I don't know. So yeah, there's a lot of weird crap going on here. It did look nice. I watched it on Prime.
Yeah, it did.
Pretty cleaned up. It's pretty cleaned up. There's such a weird mix of actors in here. Jeff Goldblum and obviously Peter Weller before his RoboCop days.
Although Peter Weller does look like he belongs in an MTV music video in this.
Well, the clothes, all the, he's the cool collective one, right? Like he's just too cool for school. Everyone else wants to be in. Everyone wants to be around him. He is Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah, well, he's got an almost sixth sense, right? He's like, he stops the song, and it's, by the way, it's Billy Vera and the Beaters, the actual band that's backing him up.
Oh, that's a real band?
At this moment, remember that 80s song, Billy Vera? And the Beaters?
No,
You
I don't. No,
No?
I don't know.
They had like a number one hit in the late 80s. But he stops the band at one point and he says, wait, is somebody not having a good time out there?
He's very in tune. He's very in tune.
Is somebody
with his audience.
crying out there?
You know, when they say, you just read the room, he's like, yeah, I'm all over it, man.
So, but let me ask you this. When he says, no matter where you go, there you are. Did that originate from this movie?
I can't imagine that this is the first time that's ever been said.
They should pay somebody royalties for that phrase, because that's like, we're going to need a bigger boat, right?
Yes.
I think this movie deserves its props just for that alone.
Okay, nope. I've got the source on this.
Okay.
So the earliest close match to this phrase appeared in 1955 within the Hazleton Collegian periodical published by students attending Pennsylvania State University, a section titled Oddities printed humorous items from the community. And the comment from the story is Jim Russell wants to know why it is that no matter where you go, there you are. So it's from 1955.
Nerd.
So it's been lifted then.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in this movie is lifted. It's a potpourri of
Although, wow, I'm reading this whole article now. I'm caught up.
Oh no. Yeah, she's out of the conversation, by the way.
Mhm.
She hasn't said a word since we started talking about it.
An 1881 translation into English of a devotional book called The Imitation of Christ that was published in Latin in the 1400s translates one phrase as, for wherever you go, you take yourself with you and you will always find yourself. So basically,
So there you go.
kind of a rough so this is actually maybe from the 1400s.
They were very wordy back then. We're a little more succinct right now.
All right. So simply put, Buckaroo Banzai did not come up with this phrase. All right.
No.
There you go.
Okay.
But you learned something.
Wow, you were
Mhm.
schooled on that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say that the alien ships look pretty cool in this movie.
Yes,
They
that
look
was a
very
really cool
organic.
design. Yep. I
Yeah.
agree. So, and the running joke is Christopher Lloyd's character is Mr. John Boutte. They kept calling him Booty.
Big booty. Yeah.
Big booty. Boutte.
And the other major plot point is that the War of the Worlds broadcast was real.
That is that old guy from the wine commercials. Nobody would even know that reference now.
And
All
the
this
aliens actually brainwashed Orson Welles to refute it, because initially it was an actual Martian invasion that he was reporting on. That's what he thought it was. So the aliens brainwashed him to actually retract that and say it was a hoax, when in fact all these aliens, these Johns that were banished, actually have invaded Earth and still live here among us.
All named John.
All named John.
Even the females.
John Smallberries was my favorite, I think.
I think they just put like names in a hat and you had to pick one. I did like at one point they told Buckaroo, he's like, president's calling. He goes, president of what? It's like the guy who plays the president is Tote from Raiders of the Lost Ark, not to bring it back to the first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But he was dubbed. Somebody else did his lines.
But
He
the
was
other
in
thing,
traction the whole time, which was weird.
yeah, so that's
I
not
don't
really. Buckaroo says that he has a bad back, like, or he mentions his bad back.
Yeah, I don't really
at
know
some
what was
point.
going on there. It was just a weird.
There's lots of throwaway stuff. It maybe takes for granted that the audience is keeping up and is listening to every small bit of dialogue to bring them through what this
Yeah,
plot
like
is.
I said, it's bizarre because they don't like they just throw you into this world, and you're just kind of like, what the hell am I watching?
Because it's confusing because, okay, they establish that there's aliens in this mountain, right? And that there's Big Boutte and John Lithgow. Maybe you don't know he's an alien yet, but he is an alien. So there's aliens on Earth. Then you see this ship approaching Earth. So you assume that these are bad guy aliens as well. It crashes and it's this like rolled up ball of a pod kind of a thing. This other alien comes out who they kill. So you are very confused as to what's going on. Like, I thought that was their
Yeah.
friend coming out
Yeah,
of the
I don't know.
ship. No. After all this takes place, then you get the exposition. Okay, there's bad ones and there's good ones. So you can't really appreciate this unless you watch it again.
Multiple times.
The first time you are completely lost as to
Yeah,
what's
it's like,
going
what?
on.
Yeah. And apparently humans are referred to as monkey boys. They use
Mm.
that phrase now multiple times. But you mentioned like these throwaway scenes. There's a scene where they're going to the lab and there's a watermelon. He goes, "Oh, what's up with the watermelon?" He goes, "I'll tell you later." And I guess they put that in there and realized that nobody in the production or nobody in the studio made a note about it. So they knew that no one was really watching what they were doing. So then they just went crazy and did whatever.
And they left the scene in the movie.
And it's completely throwaway. It's like only if you know that they put that in there just to see if the studio was paying attention. I don't know. We didn't talk about Clancy Brown
playing the rare good guy in his career.
Yeah. This was only 2 years before Highlander.
I don't know. What is it? 40-year-old spoiler alert now? Clancy dies at the end of this movie.
Spider to the spine.
Yeah, Penny dies as well, but she's revived with an electric kiss. He can't kiss Clancy Brown and bring him back too?
I don't know. I don't know. If a kiss is enough to shock you awake, what happens if they do more? She's going to blow up. You know, it's funny. You mentioned John Lithgow's accent before, and all I kept thinking of was Peter McNichol in Ghostbusters 2, where he's playing the doofy art restoration guy.
I can't tell you the last time I saw Ghostbusters 2. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Something else that's very confusing around John Lithgow's character. So you're introduced to him in the Trenton Home for the Mentally Insane, or whatever they call it, and he escapes. And you don't see him for 42 minutes.
Yeah, he's kind of like he escapes and then that's the end of it.
And so he's the main bad guy. So you're like, so you've forgotten about him by the time he reappears again. And then
also like these doofuses never checked her bag. She had the device in her bag the whole time, but they're like torturing her for no reason.
Again, I think we're overthinking this.
Christina's yawning already and we're talking about the movie.
Did you fall asleep while watching this movie?
I just spaced out. Like if I don't like a thing, like my brain just goes away to a different place. I just start thinking about other things.
Can you get your husband on the line?
I know. He would be very enthusiastic.
Was he like elbowed you? Go watch this part.
He was very excited to watch this. He's like, this person's in this and this person's in it. I mean, there's
a lot of big name
surprising number of people that are like well known now.
Well, that Vincent Schiavelli, who's just creepy, like he is that creepy guy in Ghost.
I mean, Dan Hidaya's and like we mentioned, Clancy Brown, Jeff Goldblum, Ellen Barkin. I mean, there's a lot of people who eventually became big names that are in this movie.
Matt Clark, who was the Secretary of Defense, he was the bartender in Back to the Future 3.
And my wife pointed this out, but Jonathan Banks is the guard at the insane asylum who was a huge character in both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I think Mike, his name was in that. But yeah, so the movie ends with Lizardo building some kind of transport to get all his bad aliens back to Planet 10 for his invasion. Buckaroo commandeers a smaller alien ship, and there's some kind of a dogfight at the end of the movie. And then Buckaroo finds the gun in his ship and shoots them down. Now, I thought a nice touch to this was that Buckaroo has fans, like a fan network that help him.
Yes.
On his
what were they called? The
Blue Blazers. The Blue Blazers.
Yes.
This kid's name is Scooter. So Scooter and his dad are helping Buckaroo. And at one point he has, I was calling it the goober, from Spider-Verse, the thing that they needed to power the gizmo or whatever the name of it was. But Scooter had it for a long time. I'm thinking, are these the only Blue Blazers that are helping him? Like just this kid and his father? Doesn't he have more?
Yes.
But
nope.
No, just those two. So yeah, happy ending. They beat the bad aliens, and at the very end of it is a picture credits kind of a deal, like a shot like a music video.
Yes,
and
that's actually fun. I like
it. Is that was a nice like a march kind of a scene,
and it really is an homage to that old '80s. I mean, some of that stuff just doesn't hold up. Nobody wears a thin tie anymore. Full cowboy outfit, you might be able to pull that off now. I don't know.
And you could tell Jeff Goldblum's character just so badly wants to be a member of the band. And I think he makes it at the end. He's one of the Cavaliers by the end of the movie.
Yeah, if only we had that sequel, we would have.
If only.
If only.
Yeah,
Apparently-
that's never a good omen to actually advertise a sequel yourself at the end of the movie. Then you know it's never going to happen.
Buckaroo Banzai will be back.
Yeah.
No, he won't. Actually, in 2001, they announced, Dark Horse announced that they're going to do a direct sequel to this. So it is Buckaroo Banzai against the World Crime League, but in comic book form.
Speaking of comic books, you mentioned you had the Marvel comics, which
Yes.
was a special limited, 2-issue
Yeah,
series.
I used to always get the no, I got the big ones, the super special. They were like
Okay.
magazine size. It was the entire, I had a lot of those. I read so many movies long before I ever watched them.
Buckaroo in the movie has a comic book because
Yes.
characters pick it up. So there's two characters that pick up a comic
Bubba.
book, and one of them says, "What's that?" It's the latest Buckaroo Banzai. But if
Number
you
one.
notice, it's number
This
one.
is number one. It's the latest and only issue.
At the time, viral marketing, right? This was the version of viral marketing for 1984. They peppered Star Trek conventions in 1984 with free Buckaroo Banzai headbands, which are commanding hefty prices these days if you still have one. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's viral marketing right there. I'm surprised they just have people dressed up as the Electroids running around, the aliens. What's that? I did see Gene Siskel, I guess, when they reviewed this for At the Movies, correctly guessed that eventually this would attain cult status.
And he was correct.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty much any movie that you don't understand. Oh, this will be a cult movie someday.
Right, correct. I don't get it, but someday the kids will. Direct influences on Peter Weller's performance: Adam Ant, Jacques Cousteau, and Aaliyah. I give up. I'm done. I'm out of here. I can't speak today.
Elia Kazan, right?
Kazan, yes.
There was a funny review. Let me pull it up here. The Chicago Reader.
Mhm.
The film gives you the mildly annoying sensation of being left out of a not very good private joke.
Well, but
The Reader is like the hipster paper too. The
Yeah.
Reader is
so even he was out of the loop on that.
Yeah,
one.
this guy apparently gave up very, very
I'm not
quickly.
I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it at all. Yeah, it is an acquired taste, I think.
And Time said, anyone without PhDs in astrophysics and pop culture is likely to get lost in the ganglion of story strands. Now, that's a word and a half.
Ganglion.
Although
That's a-
Pauline Kael liked it, The New Yorker.
Pauline Kael.
The picture's sense of fun carried me along.
She was in on the joke, I guess.
I guess she was, yeah.
She got it.
Yeah, I didn't get it quite so much back in 1984, and neither did audiences. On a $17 million budget, it only made 6.3 at the
Ouch.
box office.
Mm.
So yeah, that sequel never was to pass. All right, what kind of buckets would we give to Buckaroo?
I don't know. Christine has not said a single word, so this is not a Condor Man, is it? You
This is
can't-
not a Gondor Man, but like, I just had no engagement with this movie whatsoever.
even with a super fan next to you.
Even with the super, he likes a lot of bad movies. Okay.
Yeah, we watched Prisoners from the Lost Universe or whatever that was.
He seems to think like my sense of irony is not developed or something. I'm like, no, it's just bad.
Fair enough. There's nothing wrong with a good bad movie or a bad good movie. I don't know which.
No, I do not like this movie. 2, I don't know. It's vaguely amusing, mostly because you're like, hey, there's so and so. Hey, there's so and so.
There's an
Actually, no, I'm going to
alien.
give it 2 because Clancy Brown is like a thirst trap in this movie. So we'll do that.
Well, I'm going to prop it up a little bit. I'm going 3.5.
3.5.
I enjoyed this. I haven't seen this in years, and it was probably when it dropped on VHS, and I probably didn't get it then. But for what it is, I enjoyed it.
And even though I didn't like it as a kid, I probably got more of a nostalgia blast from this than I did for Indiana Jones and the Dial of
Yeah.
Destiny, just because I haven't seen it since I was 13 years old. And it does have that MTV flavor, and I'll give
Yes,
it,
it
I
does.
kind of, it's, like I said, it's of its time, and it did try. Because of that, I will give it 3 buckets. Buckaroo Banzai, in the 8th dimension. I've
you go.
always in my head have confused this with that sci-fi movie that has Molly Ringwald in it.
Cherry 3000, 2000.
No, that's Melanie Griffith.
Nope.
Molly Ringwald's Breakfast
Star
Club.
Chaser, Star Hunter.
Star Hunter.
Star Hunter
in 3D.
In 3D.
Yes, I always, for some reason, confuse the two, but that's a
That came out
completely
the same
different
year.
thing.
I believe that came out the same year as Return of the Jedi, because Jedi was sold out when I went to go see it the first time in Ohio. And that was the other movie playing, and we refused to watch it. So we sat outside the mall for 2 hours waiting for our parents to pick us up.
And you know me, I love a bad movie, but I didn't love this one. Liked it, didn't love it.
Yeah. You don't have to love it to like it. So, and it's on Prime. Go watch it on Prime. It's
Yes,
all nice
it
and cleaned
is.
up.
Yes,
It's all
it
nice and
is.
cleaned up. And if you got access to the DVD, the super special edition DVD, apparently there's a lot of other fun stuff on there. So
Yeah.
Go check it out.
All right. So what else did we do this week?
Ooh, that's a loaded question right there. Christina, we haven't heard from you in a bit. We want to make sure you're still here. I can physically see you, but they can't hear you. So please.
So I watched an anime film called Goodbye Donglees, and it's spelled DON space GLEES, in case you're wondering. It is incredibly beautiful. It's a kind of slice of life coming of age story about two boys who, when they were kids, they formed like their own little club, the Donglees, because they were sort of rejected by the rest of the community. They live in like a very rural area. But when one of them turns 15, he moves to Tokyo to go to high school, and the other one sort of left behind helping on the family farm. The one who went to Tokyo comes home from the summer and finds that his friend has met this other kid named Drop, who they sort of invited into this club.
Third wheel.
They kind of all go on an adventure together, and it's, you know, it's a beautiful movie about growing up and moving on and all kinds of other things. It's really, really good. I will tell you that the movie has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh.
100%. It's so good.
Am I gonna cry?
You will cry.
What is up with you and crying movies?
I don't
Making
see
me
any point in
cry all the
watching. I
time.
don't see any point in watching a movie that doesn't engage my emotions in some way. Not like just cry, but like, do I feel tense? Do I feel, you know, have I
that's
laughed?
fair.
Have I whatever? Like, to me, that's why, you know, I can't watch a lot of these bad movies where you guys are like, oh, it's so fun to watch a bad movie. I can't, if I'm not like emotionally engaged, I can't, like, I'm not getting anything out of it.
Fair enough.
Okay, I will talk about a bad movie that I watched.
All right. Yeah. That segue right there.
I watched a movie called Stage Fright on Amazon Prime, and it's a foreign film, and it's dubbed into English, but it's about a group of actors. It's from 1987, I think, and it wasn't released until the following year. A group of actors that are rehearsing a play, and of course, they're all very annoying characters, especially the director. They're all young, and coincidentally, a murderous mental prisoner has escaped, and he has made his way to the theater. And in order to get his actors into rehearsing and to not let them leave until everything is perfect, the director has locked the doors to the theater and has thrown away the key. And of course, the killer is in the theater with them, and none of them can get out.
Is that Wes Anderson?
That would completely work as a Wes Anderson movie now that I'm thinking of it. Of course, things don't go well for these actors. So it's called Stage Fright. And it's dumb fun. It's terrible.
It's all right. It's all right there in the title, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dumb fun. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm actually going to stay in the theater because I took my whole family yesterday to the Winter Garden Theater in New York City. Home for years, if anybody lived in the tri-state area, where Cats played nonstop. Now and forever. Well, guess what? Forever's gone. I think Mamma Mia played there afterwards, after Cats closed. But we went to, this is previews that just started June 30th, so we're only in the first week. Back to the Future, the musical. And I will have to say I was entertained from beginning to end. It does not take itself seriously at all, which is exactly what you want it to be. I will say, as someone who knows this movie inside and out, you can't help. There are, you know, they do lift a fair amount of dialogue from the movies. but it was co-created and produced by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, who did create the original trilogy. There's some nice pedigree, and Alan Silvestri did the music and score and lyrics. It was a lot of fun. This guy who plays Doc Brown actually steals this movie. He's a Tony Award winner, Roger Bart. He came from the London production, which is 2022's Best New Musical last year, over in the West End. I think it's still playing over there, but a lot of the cast is migrated over here to Broadway. So very entertaining. My entire family enjoyed it. My son, who does not like stuff like this, was completely entertained. So money well spent. But I will say, we talked before about libations in concession stand. And of course, these places, they offer up snacks, and 3 drinks set me back $97.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, there's the big old, would you like to leave a tip? 18% was, almost $20.
Yeah. My son and I went to see Hadestown a couple weeks ago, and they had like a special cocktail for the show, and it was $12.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
all the drinks I bought were doubles,
Mhm.
the last year, the whole show, but $97 is a little much. But since I was driving, I did not partake. But it was nice. We were in Times Square. We got to hang out. My buddy Rich came in. I bought him a ticket. We went to dinner. Although I think everyone came home with dysentery, so that wasn't good.
Sounds great.
Yeah, well, my constitution is a little bit stronger than the rest of them, but we enjoyed it at the time. Listen, it does, like I said, it does not take itself seriously at all. The second act I thought was far superior than the first act. And the actor who's playing Doc Brown is just fantastic, and they do a lot of fun stuff that's obviously not in the movie. They have to change some things up. Obviously, we don't have Libyans chasing Marty around. Oh, I will say, the kid who plays Marty, this guy Casey Likes, he is showing up in. There's an MGM movie coming out called Dark Harvest. I think Skylar said it's Stephen King property. I don't know if that's true, but he will be starring in that movie.
It's not the pseudonym of some secret new Star Wars movie that's coming out?
Yeah, right? Dark Harvest. The sequel. We were not blue enough. So there you go. It was fun. Back to the Future, the musical.
And you've been leading up to that for a long time.
Yeah, I bought tickets. Geez, I had them in October, November of last year. It was actually our family Christmas gift.
Okay.
So, and it was a packed house.
I'm sure it was.
It was full, the theater's not that big. But it's cool because, they employ, obviously the star of the show is the DeLorean, and they do a lot of stuff with LED screens, and the transition between scenes are pretty impressive compared, considering that the stage itself is not that big, but they take full advantage of the space they have. So, yeah, very enjoyable. Every one of these, a lot of these actors first, their Broadway debut. So
will you be getting the soundtrack?
I will not. All I wanted was a program, and apparently it is so early that programs have not even been printed up yet.
No.
Yeah, I know. And our former.
What did you get? Did you get any?
I got nothing. I got a $97 empty plastic Back to the Future the musical cup that came home with me.
Were they selling any souvenirs, T-shirts?
No, please. It's Broadway. There's a whole store devoted on the side. Yeah, they had T-shirts, they had calendars. There was a book, there was a hardcover book, but it was $60. It just, there was stuff in there, but I'm trying my best to kind of clean stuff up. I would have liked a program. I would have been happy with a program. I do have the playbill.
Okay.
But that's about it. I wasn't going to invest in anything else. Socks, Back to the Future socks. But yeah, hopefully it has a nice run.
Yes. All right. So from transitioning from that, what are we doing in the future, our near future, next week?
I am actually taking the Dial of Destiny, and I am going back in time.
And Jim and I are watching Jordan Peele's now classic, Get Out.
I think it was classic after it came out.
And we've actually covered it already, but not with Christina. So this is going to be a rewind in real time.
Mm-hmm. It's like it was a pre-me era.
Pre-me era. Rewind, real-time rewind. That's a good one.
And there should be a few of those coming up because there's movies that we did not do justice to back in our early days.
Speaking of the original Raiders.
Yeah.
Well, when we all did Close Encounters, that was a do-over.
Yes.
That was
for you
that was
guys,
a real-time rewind as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is not unprecedented here. So yep, Get Out, along with a movie, Christina, that you saw in theaters, correct?
It came out here for about 2 weeks. I was not able to see it in the theater.
Oh, you
but
didn't? I thought you
Yeah.
you saw it in
No,
theater. Okay.
But then I did, like, as soon as it came out on VOD, I watched it because it had been on my radar for a long time. So I will be watching this again for the second time. Polite Society.
Polite Society. Now, I only have the barest inclination of what this is about from how you described it on earlier episodes.
I'm
'cause
actually
I think-
very jealous because this looks like a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
because
You
this
can
was
still
one of
watch
your.
it.
I probably will still watch.
This is one of your what else we did this week's,
Mhm.
right? From
Yeah.
a while ago. It looks like not exactly in-law. What do you call in-laws if you're not married yet?
Yeah.
Is there
you're
a
almost
word?
in-laws,
Yeah,
right?
you're almost in-laws. So looks like poisonous in-laws. So we figured that this was kind of the direction that Get Out was going. So it seemed like it was a nice pairing.
Yeah, and I do want to say, if people are listening to this and they like to listen to the new episodes, these are two movies that really do benefit from you, watching them before we talk about them. If for some reason you don't know what happens in Get Out, bless you, please go watch it now and then come back and listen next week. And same thing for Polite Society. Try to watch these before you listen for sure, because there's no way to discuss them without spoiling. And these are two movies that are kind of better if you go in cold.
Yeah, Polite Society, if you have Peacock, can be seen on Peacock without any additional charges other than whatever you already pay for Peacock. And Get Out, did we establish that was on Prime?
For $3.39 according to Google.
That is a deal.
30.
That is a deal.
Not even 99.
That's what Google says. You can watch it on Prime Video, YouTube for $3.99, Google Play for $3.99, Vudu for $3.99. So for less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, you can watch
Less than a Patreon because we don't
really
have one.
good movie.
All right. So come
All
back
right.
next week. We'll be watching Get Out and Polite Society.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just want to remind you guys, wherever you go, there you are.
Thanks for the info.
Thanks, Buckaroo.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Ute.
Hey, everybody. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and then share it with your fellow movie nerd friends. It means the world to us and helps our listenership grow.
You can also find us on all of the socials, Instagram and Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just look for the Popcorn Bucket.
You can help support this show by visiting our TeePublic page for some TMI branded goodies such as hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. tpublic.com/TMI Confessionals, all one word.
A 5-star review would be incredibly nice as well. I'm just saying.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate you. Be sure to come back next week. We'll save some popcorn for you. They should call it Indiana Jones and the Pointless Cash Grab.
Why? That's Cracker Jacks.